Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to the Battle of Yiling Let's Talk Lore series as we continue with episode 2, titled Early Deployments. In our last episode, we ended as Lufon, Liu Bei's adopted son, retreated back to Chengdu following a series of betrayals in Shangyong by Meng Da and the Shen brothers. Now, not only did Meng Da turncoat and join Wei, he also wrote Liu Bei a letter before turning coat to put the blame of his decision on Liu Feng. So when Liu Feng returned back to Chengdu, Liu Bei, who was already mad about his previous decision to not reinforce Guan Yu, scolded him for his failures. Sensing an opportunity here, Zhuge Liang then suggested to Liu Bei that this was the best opportunity to kill Liu Feng, as Zhuge Liang worried that with Liu Feng's stubborn personality, he would be difficult to control after Liu Bei's death. Now, to clarify, Zhuge Liang is not implying that he cannot control Liu Feng after Liu Bei's death, but rather it would be difficult for Liu Shan, who is now the crown prince, to control Liu Feng, who is technically his older brother through adoption. As you see, Liu Feng was adopted when Liu Bei landed in the Jin province under Liu Biao. At that time, Liu Bei, who was already in his 40s, didn't have a son yet. So in order to secure himself a male heir, he ended up adopting Liu Feng, who was a orphan teenager at the time, living with his uncle's family in Changsha. And Liu Feng would grow up to be quite the capable general, as he first showed off his abilities during Liu Bei's initial conquest of the Yi province, and then some more during the Hanzhong campaign against Cao Cao. But unfortunately for Liu Feng, Liu Bei would go on to have 3 biological sons in Liu Shan, Liu Yong, and Liu Li. And with the Han dynasty now officially ended by the Wei, Liu Bei is no longer just a simple warlord, but the emperor of the Han. So by all means, Liu Feng can't inherit, as he's not from the imperial bloodline, regardless of his age. Therefore, his existence becomes a liability for Liu Shan, especially given that Liu Feng is not only a proven general, but also quite stubborn. So heeding Zhuge Liang's advice here, Liu Bei, using Liu Feng's recent military failures as the excuse, ordered him to death by suicide. Liu Feng would oblige, as he lamented in his final moments that he should have accepted Meng Da's offer to surrender to Wei back in Shangyong, had he known that his adopted father would be cruel enough to kill him back in Chengdu. Now, to be fair, even though Liu Bei made the call to kill Liu Feng's death still pained him, but for the sake of the dynasty, it had to be done. And speaking of things that pained Liu Bei, Liu Feng's defeat from Shangyong and his death was only the first of 2 tragedies I mentioned in the last episode, as the second tragedy would be the death of Zhang Fei. At this time, Zhang Fei was not in Chengdu, as he had been stationed for 7 years at Langzhong, which is a city near the famed gate pass of Jienge, defending the borders of the Yi province. And hearing about Guan Yu's death, Zhang Fei eagerly awaited the news to mobilize against Sun Quan for revenge. But Zhang Fei as a person had the bad habit of mistreating his troops, as very unlike his romance portrayal, Zhang Fei came from a very wealthy family and often associated himself with the gentry clans, while neglecting the common troops. Even though Liu Bei had tried to warn him in the past that if he was going to end up beating his troops for mistakes, then he shouldn't keep them around him afterwards, as that's just asking for trouble. And indeed, just as Zhang Fei's troops started their march towards Jiangzhou, which is the modern city of Chongqing, 2 of his lieutenants, who were fed up with Zhang Fei, saw their chance, as they would end up assassinating Zhang Fei in the middle of the night, and then fleeing east on the Yangtze River to Sun Quan, where they hope Zhang Fei's head can buy themselves a new life in Wu. So overnight, Zhang Fei, the famed general who scared away Cao Cao's entire army at Changban, died to 2 nobodies named Zhang Da and Fan Qiang, as neither were recorded to have done anything prior to this assassination, nor anything after, in any historical records. But Zhang Fei's death did play a role into the Battle of Yiling, as you can attribute his assassination indirectly to Sun Quan, as Zhang Da and Fan Qiang escaped there after killing him. So Liu Bei's grudge against Sun Quan only grew deeper, which is why when Zhuge Jin tried to mediate peace under the command of Sun Quan between the two sides before the onset of war, Liu Bei flat out refused. Now at this time, there were many in Liu Bei's court who also argued against the campaign, as they felt it was much more opportune to attack Wei, as Cao Pi's usurpation had just occurred. So attacking Wei under the banner of the Han might spur many unhappy Han loyalists to join them before Cao Pi established firm control over the lands. Zhao Yun, for one, was very vocal against this campaign, and in return, Liu Bei ordered him to garrison with reserve forces in Jiangzhou instead of bringing him on the campaign. Zhuge Liang was also against the campaign, but since it was his older brother who represented Sun Quan in the peace attempt, Zhuge Liang had to excuse himself from being too vocal, as it would become a question of loyalty if it looked like he was siding with his brother over his emperor. So with peace talks faltering, Sun Quan hedged his bets, as he would double down on his alliance with Wei by formally acknowledging the end of the Han and the formation of Wei, as he would offer to become Wei's vassal. Yu Jin, who had been a prisoner of Guan Yu and then the Wu forces, was sent back to Cao Pi as a gesture of goodwill, as Cao Pi would respond by giving Sun Quan the 9 bestowments, the title of Duke of Wu, and the Grand General title along with the governor of the Jin province. Obviously, none of this would please Liu Bei, as in July of 221, Liu Bei would officially send General Wu Ban and Feng Xi to attack Wu's forward forces near Wushan, as Sun Quan had General Lu Xun, Li Yi, and Liu A stationed there at the borders ever since Guan Yu's death. Now Wu Ban is the son of the former Han General Wu Kuang, who had served under Grand General He Jin back during the early days of the late Han period. And if you remember from our Fall of the Han lore series, Wu Kuang took part in the cleansing of the eunuchs alongside Cao Cao and Yuan Shao after He Jin's assassination, and was the one directly responsible for killing He Miao. But more importantly, Wu Ban is now the cousin of Empress Wu, or Liu Bei's cousin-in-law, as this relationship would make him quite a high-level general for the Shu Han army, as he was quite capable during this period, and he would have his first opportunity to demonstrate his abilities here against the Wu forces, as Wu Ban's army would crush Li Yi's defense at Wuxian, as they would push back the Wu forces all the way to Zigui. Then in early 222, Liu Bei would order Huang Quan to lead their naval forces to secure the north bank of the Yangtze River to protect the main army from potential attacks from Wei, while Liu Bei would personally lead the main army alongside the south bank to advance on Xiaoting, while at the same time, Ma Liang was sent deep into Wuling Commandery to try to make contacts with the local tribal leaders in Shamoke, with hopes to secure alliance with the local Wuxi Man tribes. Now, when this initial plan was being made, Huang Quan, who had previously served as Liu Zhang's secretary, offered to serve as the vanguard for the main army, as he argued that they should not overcommit initially, as their forces are sailing downstream on the Yangtze River, which made it pretty easy for them to deploy forward, but incredibly hard to retreat. So the best option would be to have a small force poke for weakness in the Wu defense, while Liu Bei sits back with the reserve army and only commits when the opportunity arises. But eager for revenge, Liu Bei turned down this plan, as Liu Bei would lead the main army alongside the south bank, while Huang Quan provided cover with the navy on the river and defended against any potential Wei attacks from the north. So with this early deployment by Liu Bei, now it's Sun Quan's turn to respond, as we'll end our episode here, and come back next time to see Wu's defensive plan. Hopefully you all enjoyed this episode enough to leave a like to help support the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!